All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Pimpy and Rice Show. And today we're going to be talking about the videos that Pimpy put out recently called The Plan to End It All. He told me to check out parts 1 and 2, which we'll have a link down below so people check that out. Also, we want to let people know that we just finished up an interview with Stephen Gleason, the CEO of Money Metals Exchange. So we'll have that out as well. So make sure you're checking that out. You can obviously get a free half ounce of silver using either one of our promo codes. So depending on which channel you're watching this, you go to Money Metals Exchange, or excuse me, moneymetals.com. You're a first time buyer. You purchase $100 or more and use the promo code either Rice or the promo code Pimpy. You'll get a free half ounce of silver, and it's a way to support our channels. And we would greatly appreciate that. And we'll have links down below, as I mentioned. So, Pimpy, man, I'm really impressed with what you put together with the videos, parts 1 and 2 of The Plan to End It All. And I've noticed it kind of parallels also with a lot of the research and some of the things I've been talking about too. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. But yeah, let's talk about it. Where's your head at with these videos and this whole idea of this plan between two different scenarios that kind of looks like a Trump kind of scenario versus a deep state cabal, which would include your IMF and your World Economic Forum, kind of a versus. Yeah. And here
that's what it looks like. So here's my thing. It started with the IQD. For those who don't know what that is, it's the Iraqi dinar. People claim to have insiders. People claim to. I mean, I do. I just don't talk about them because in most cases, the things we talk about cannot be shared anyways. So there's no sense. And I just can't stand when people do that all the time. Well, I spoke to my insider, trying to add. I don't need to do that. So,
me and you both, I mean, we both had people that reach out to us and share information, and neither one of us try to use that as a way to get people to enjoy our content. And we want people to enjoy our content for what it is, not because somebody thinks that we have secret intel or we're super connected and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, well, no, the reason why I bring this up is because I seen a little back and forth between people in comments one time, and somebody said, the reason why I don't watch Pimpy's videos is because he doesn't have insider information. And I was thinking, oh my God, if you listen to what these people claim to have is insider information, it's just not, man. So
no, it's crap. It's regurgitated stuff that they could find on their own if they actually did their own due diligence. But because they don't, they think that this person's got secret information. It's special, and this person should be put on some pedestal.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but when I first got started, about 6 weeks after I started, I had another YouTuber or somebody from his group take the information that I put on my YouTube, go into their paid account and pass it off, claiming they got this from, a CBI insider and a White House correspondent. And I was like, and then somebody brought it to my attention. I said, oh, they're sharing information. I don't care about it. They can share it. And then the guy's like, no, it comes from a paid group. I was like, wait, you mean people paid for this information? And that's what pissed me off. I don't care if people use the information to share it. I really don't. I go around and watch other people and share their information. That's what it's supposed to be for. But if you're charging people for it, then I have a problem with it, especially when you start lying and saying that your information came from some insider. And I'm like, no, it all came from my website. So I put them on blast. Not that I want to do that, but it's just, that's the kind of stuff that drives me insane. So
you gotta do it. It's gotta be done sometimes. Now, I mean, the cool thing about like this whole topic that we're gonna get into, I mean, like it covers everything from geopolitics to precious metals, cryptocurrency, the ideas of the global currency reset, the GCR, the Great Reset. Yeah. So it's a combination of all these things, even a little bit of NESARA, GESARA kind of mixed in a little bit. So it's really interesting.
That's what makes it so crazy.
Now, here's
something
I want to bring up real quick before we get into like the global market. This is something I've been saying, and I said it to you yesterday when we were having a conversation, an unrecorded conversation, which we should have recorded. That's why we're doing what we're doing today.
I noticed when you start talking, I go, man, we probably should record this because we can get carried away on some stuff I'm sure a lot of people want to know about.
Yeah, no, but sometimes it's good to lay a little groundwork of what we're gonna talk about too. So I mean, I appreciate both, and no matter when we get together, it's usually dynamite anyway, so it doesn't matter, man.
I appreciate it.
No, I agree, and I like working with you, man. I kind of got off track with what I was gonna say specifically in regard. Oh, it was going back to to a more U.S. based thing. So you're looking at with your videos, the plan to end it all, the two scenarios, the kind of a globalization and then more of a localization. It goes back to sound money, gold back, precious metals back currencies. So I've said from the Trump perspective with the US dollar, you know, a lot of people have been talking about the idea of the Federal Reserve being put into the Treasury and Donald Trump having control of the Federal Reserve. So there's a couple different possibilities that can go in with that. Now, I've learned that things don't happen the way that I expect for them to. So if what I just said is true, it's not something that can necessarily be, you know, it's not spelled out for people. So it's not like it can be 100% proven. But you got two different scenarios playing out with that. You've got the possibility that Donald Trump is trying to end the Fed and essentially make the IRS obsolete. And a lot of that goes into some of the NESARA stuff, which is, you know, kind of interesting where that parallels. So the special purpose vehicle thing that got passed this year in regards to all the stuff with the pandemic, where they were allowing the Federal Reserve to purchase up stocks and things like that, could be looked at as a way of stacking more debt on the Federal Reserve balance sheets, and then ultimately just taking and collapsing the Federal Reserve and killing all the debt that's on that balance sheet. And there would be your debt jubilee that everybody's talking about that goes into the NESARA GESARA. And then you have the other possibility, because again, this isn't something that I don't think is 100% spelled out. You see all these government bailouts going on and bail-ins and asking for ownership of companies. I even heard like with the Boeing bail-in, bailout, however you want to look at that, they were asking for like 5% of the company. So you could be looking at the potential idea that we're going into a fascist type situation where the government is owning a lot of the businesses and corporations. And that's could be looked at while we're seeing the middle class being destroyed, all these different independent mom and pop businesses being put out of business because of the excuse of the social distancing and the quarantining and all that good stuff. So, I mean, you've got those two scenarios happening within the two scenarios that you're saying. And I've said this, that they're pushing for a one world currency. You can definitely see this. And you can see that Trump is fighting this. So I really like the way that you have kind of put this together in these videos. The idea that Donald Trump, Putin, Xi, the gentleman in charge of India, I don't know his name offhand, I apologize. Modi? With an M?
Modi. Yeah.
Modi, okay. So,
Modi, yeah.
But you think that behind the scenes, these guys have all been talking and working together in regards to returning all these different nations back to an even playing field, going back to a precious metals backed system and getting rid of ultimately the problem, which is central banks and the debt-based system that we have with fractional reserve banking. Is that kind of sum it up, sort of?
Yeah, you know, so what happened is on my platform, I don't just cover one subject. I cover many. I mean, I cover what's going on with the Vietnam Dong, the Iraqi dinar, gold, silver, NESARA, GESARA, you know, global currency reset, the Great Reset. You know, so it's a lot of different areas. And so what happened was over time, I started noticing that they're starting to overlap with one another. And I cannot, for the life of me, figure out what the connection was. And as time went on, and talking to all my different friends in different areas, I started to see a scenario that was playing out. And I said, holy crap, I think this is what's going on. So I had this theory, but it started with the IQD. You know, I have friends, this is what they do. They move currencies. And so I said to them guys, I don't understand this. There's large amounts of the Iraqi dinar going into central banks. They're going into these institutions around the world. It doesn't make no sense. The currency supposedly is worthless. And so we kicked around the idea of maybe it's going to be some type of, and this is months ago, some type of poor man's reserve dollar, something that goes side by side with the US dollar is what we thought. But as time went on, I'm also doing gold and silver. We know that Trump wants us to go back into the gold standard.
Well, real
so
quick,
let me see if I can.
with the Dinar thing, the Dinar thing specifically, do you think that was leading into the idea of the reevaluation, the RV that everybody's talking about, that everybody's investing into these Iraqi dinars and then the Vietnamese dong, hoping that when they get reevaluated, that they'll end up becoming wealthy because of the revaluation? Is that?
Yeah, well, that's, again, that's the stories that you hear when you get involved into it and you do some research and you say to yourself, is this a scam or is this real?
Well, how many millionaires or how many people can get that much wealth? I mean, like, how many people have been buying dinars and dongs thinking that this RV will take place and it's going to benefit them monetarily?
I don't think, believe it or not, I don't think there are as many people as you think, because we talk about it in our group. It looks like there's a lot of people. And then if you find, when you talk to them, you find out that the average Dinarian holds maybe about 250,000 dinars. So it's not a lot. So, I mean, of course, in your head, you're thinking, oh, everybody around the world, they must hold, large amounts of it, but that's not the case. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still a lot, but
right.
So, when I started doing my research into the Great Reset and notice the direction, hold on.
You're good. You're good. Just keep going.
Speaking of, speaking of currencies. Today's the day we find out the word on the dinar. So,
okay. So, because I'm not 100% sure I'm going to be able to get this out today, and to let people know that we're recording this on Friday, the 23rd of October, and I was going to talk to you about this, Pimpy, but more than likely, unless I can get the one of these videos, it would probably have them both out on Saturday, the 24th. But I'll let you know, just so everybody knows the timestamp of where we're having this conversation at versus when they hear it.
So let me see if I can just quickly sum this up. I was doing videos on NESARA, GESARA. When I first heard about it, I thought, no, this is too good to be true. And then I kind of bashed it a little bit. And then I said, well, I can't do that because I lecture people. You know what? You can't bash about something you don't talk about or don't do your own research on. How do you know it's not real? So I went through and I started researching on it and seeing if any of it has ever been coming true. And what I found out is not only is it possible, but it appears to be happening. It started happening under Trump. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some things that people have added in there that are really extreme. I don't know anything about no aliens coming from the sky and guns put to Bill Clinton's head. All that to me just sounds like crap, but there is a more grounded version of it. So when I started doing the grounded version of it, I was able to prove that not only is a lot of this happening, but a lot of it has already happening. So whether they call it an official NESARA, GESARA, I tell people stop focusing on the name. I mean, that's a good way to explain to people when you want to bring up a subject matter that's related to it. But they might not call it NESARA, GESARA. It might be called a debt jubilee. Might be called whatever you want to call it.
Right. Just pay attention to what the things that NESARA and GESARA are talking about that are the goal,
the movement.
Of them, and you'll realize how it parallels in other ways. And that goes back into things don't always happen the way that we expect it to. So that's one thing that I really want to stress to people is that, because I had to deal with this, and this is one of the things that really helps people to move forward. When you think, because like I'm thinking that when the Federal Reserve is put under the Treasury, that you're going to hear a bunch of private bankers going on news, whatever, everybody complaining and bitching about it. I haven't heard that. So, and if it's taken place, that means it didn't happen the way I expected it to. So people need to realize that things may not occur the way you think they're going to occur, but if you're aware of what these things are about, you can see how you can start seeing them in other things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because you got people that believe one thing, people who believe another. But what I tell people is, that's fine that you have these beliefs, but let's take a few steps back, be more grounded, and let's listen to everything so you're at least aware of what's going on. So here's what I'll just try to do these in a nutshell. The more you do your research on this whole World Economic Forum, they have this agenda. It's called the Great Reset. And they call it a reset of capitalism. But when you go in there and see what their policies are, they have no intentions on resetting capitalism. It is a worldwide socialist economy that they're going for. And so they have this idea about having a one digital currency that all people can use, not cash, because, you know, they're going to use the Rona as an excuse. So now you have your one world currency. They're saying they want to elect some bureaucrats who will oversee this entire process. But these are unelected officials. So now you have your one world government, your one world currency, putting us in a one world. They want an even play field as well, but they wanted all the economies to be equal, and that is to be in a socialistic economy, even though they're trying to tell us it's a reset on capitalism. It's not. So you can see them trying to expedite this plan. They're trying to make it happen. The whole purpose of the Rona coming out, whether you believe in it or not, it's a pandemic. It was placed there. It was meant to bring us all into this new system. But you see, they can't just force it on us because we're rebel. They need us to beg them to help us. So what they do is they keep us on lockdown. They don't allow us to go to work. You don't get your money. And even when those who oppose try to reopen up the economies, now you have Black Lives Matter and Antifa going over there, burning down businesses, so there's nowhere for you to go back to work. So now you're really reliant on the government. And then now they want to introduce what's called universal basic income, which people are like, wow, it's like $2,000. People are like, oh, I get free money. I don't have to do nothing.
Yeah, but you gotta be an obedient little citizen too.
Yeah. So what they're saying is
all the rules. You gotta do everything that Big Brother tells you,
including contact tracing, which is, and this isn't a tinfoil hat wearing thing. Bill Gates admitted that they have a vaccine with a little chip in there. And what they told us the chip was for was so that they can keep track of people who run into other individuals who are affected with the Rona.
Okay, now,
and
okay,
already
since you said that,
yeah, go ahead.
And you haven't, I don't know that you've connected this because you haven't mentioned it necessarily, but the digital ID, that's a big thing, and it's not being.
Yeah, the biometrics, I've talked about it.
Now, if you research and look at all the different things that are involving this, for the most part, it all ties back to Microsoft. MasterCard is doing a digital ID, ties back to Microsoft. So you're talking about a vaccine that has a potentiality of a chip that communicates, and then you combine that with things in the United States like the real ID that you need to get on a plane, and then you combine that with the digital ID, and then you combine that with universal basic income, and if you don't listen, you're just cut off. And then you get 5G and internet.
No, they're
gonna shut you out of your smart house, dude. You're not even gonna be able to get in your own home. So it's like 1984 and Brave New World combined, and it's worse.
They got this thing now at the airport where you can use your thumbprints to be identified, so you don't have to go through all this stuff. And they kind of keep a file on you, whether or not you're a risk. If you're not a risk, you can use your thumbprint, and you don't have to wait those long security lines. That's already out. But now let's get even crazier. Heathrow Airport right now, their police officers wear what's called smart helmets. And smart helmets have the so-called infrared. You can see temperatures of people to see if they have the Rona. And then if your temperature's too high, they take you in the back room. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I did it in my head. So it's funny. So they take you back there and they test you. If you're good to go. But here's the other thing too. It's now has smart technology in the helmets. What they're doing is they're scanning the chip, and the chip tells them everything you need to know about the individual walking by. And what they said that's for is, well, in case you know you're a wanted criminal, or maybe there's a child who's been abducted. See, they always try to make it sound like it's for your security, but that's what they say about everything when they're trying to get you to give up your rights. Yeah.
Just like when we were talking with Stefan about the going cashless, trying to make it as if the only people using cash are the people that have something to hide, or that you're using it for something.
Somebody nefarious, drug dealers, even though it's cryptocurrency.
People just can't respect and just want privacy. That's a bad thing. Just because I don't want people knowing what I do or what I have, that's a bad thing, because I'm not participating like everybody else. People need to also watch Black Mirror on Netflix.
Oh man, you are not lying. That
ties in all this stuff we're talking about. Now, okay, so to get back on track, you said
wait, real quick, because I want to finish on what you're saying about the biometrics. Biometrics website, when you go to there, tells you as clear as day that if you don't cooperate with the vaccine and do the contact tracing, that the government has a right to, ready for this, strip you of your ability to have drinking water, food, shelter, education, clothing, vehicles, or a job. That's what it says right on their website. I did
What
a
is the
video.
website? Do you know what the website is?
Biomatrix. I put the link underneath one of my videos. I'll send you the video.
Send it to me so we can put it
Yeah.
in this
Oh,
one.
it'll blow your mind. I told people, I'm like yelling in the video. I go, do you see this? They're literally telling you, we're going to violate your constitutional rights. This is the goal. Now, you could call it Illuminati or the New World Order or the globalists. You could call them whatever you want. This thing that people have been talking about for years that others call a conspiracy, it is here. Okay?
It's been here. It's been building.
Yeah.
I mean, even if for people that it was trying to think of the name of the magazine. It's like it's some sort of like monetary magazine that came out, some like world economic thing, and it had a phoenix on the cover of it. And
yeah, it is. It's called the Economist, and on there was the rise of the phoenix with the cryptocurrency on the front.
Well, it's questionable as to what it is. It's like a necklace around the phoenix that has a what looks like a binary zero on a binary zero. So and there's and it then it show it's like the phoenix is rising out of burning fiat money. And that was something that was predicted for, I believe, 2018, and had the elections with Trump went the other way, we probably would have seen something like that. So the Great Reset, you say, is the deep state, IMF, World Economic Forum.
Oh, yeah.
Socialism, global currency, one world government, all the stuff that we just...
Green New Deal.
Right. The biometrics.
They use all the trigger things.
Digital ID.
Oh, no, they're using all the trigger things that are out there right now. You know, we want, like I told you, they always try to make it sound like it's really good for society. We have this racial equality, sex equality, wage equality, wealth equality.
Yeah,
it's all in there. Yeah, it's been planned for 50 years, they said.
So Trump thing, the idea that Trump maybe in working with and collaborating with other world leaders like from Russia, China, India, and other nations as well, and the idea of going back to sound money backed by precious metals and evening the playing field for all the countries and creating a system that would be beneficial and fair for all of humanity. Would that be the global currency reset, the GCR? Is that, if you were to label it, would that be that, or is that just its own thing?
Yeah, okay, so in order for, again,
what I'm getting at is this the global currency reset versus the Great Reset?
Yes, that's the best, put it in a nutshell, yes. That's
Okay.
what it is.
To simplify it, to break it down to its very basic element.
Well, we know for the longest time that Trump, one, always wanted us to go back to sound money, wants us to go back to the gold standard. Two,
he wants to get rid of taxation of labor, get rid of taxation of capital gains.
IRS gone, Federal Reserve gone.
It's not killing the IRS. It's just making them obsolete. Makes no need for them.
Well, reducing the power that our government has. You know what I mean? Getting rid of these agencies. Yeah. So so all this actually makes that happen. That these central banks give the power to our politicians to keep creating more of these freaking agencies that we don't need. They're just redundant. But the purpose of it is, the more government grows, then the more you're looking at socialist.
The more
and then
powerful it becomes.
Yeah. Well, then you have a state takeover. You have state taking over what? Your businesses and what you do and your universal income, and you know what I mean? So they start telling you when you can and can't wipe your ass. So that's not what we want. We know that Trump doesn't like that. He knows that he's already said that, one, our government's too powerful. Two, our dollar's too powerful. And three, we need to end the Federal Reserve. And four, we need to go back to the gold standard. But I have a feeling the plan is bigger than that, because, see, even if Trump was able to get rid of the Federal Reserve or at least damage it while he's in office, once he's out of office, what's to keep them from turning around,
kill the entire thing,
and bringing it back?
You got to kill the entire thing, and if
the whole system,
there's something above the Federal Reserve or something that's just as equally powerful as the Federal Reserve, and that would be the IMF.
That's called the Business of International Settlement. Yes, the BIS, which is it's called the Bank of International Settlement. They are the central bank to central banks. They're like the mother hub. You know what I mean? They're the big dogs. Everything is run through them. It is them that send out the policies for the bail-in. You know what I mean? They
Right.
do all these little things where they do these testing things around a nation to see if things work the way they want to. They learn from it and then they implement them everywhere. So you can't just hurt the Federal Reserve here. You have to take out the whole entire system. So, you know, in hearing about everything that's going on with gold, silver, the IQD, digital currencies, the Great Reset, you know, and NESARA, GESARA, I started noticing that a lot of these puzzle pieces are going together for what I think Trump's real plan is. He knows he cannot just try to end the Federal Reserve here, which is going to the gold standard. Any politician can come back and just do the same thing all over again. They'll make some excuse up. They'll say Trump was a bad man and he hurt us, and you know what I mean? They'll make whatever excuse. So what you do is this.
I mean, there's people that are educating others about American history. This parallels some of my stuff where I'm trying to teach people about things like what Andrew Jackson did. He stood up against the central banking system. So, I mean, if we start bringing more prevalence to this and not allow these moments in history to be forgotten, it will inspire other people. And ultimately, no matter what Donald Trump may or may not be doing or what other people may or may not be doing, ultimately, we the people, and that's all you know this, we the people have the power to make all this change. All we have to do is unite. And that's, you know, ultimately what I've been trying to do with like interviewing people like Ania von Reitz, Russell J. Gould, Christopher James, all these individuals. I'm going to be talking to David Straits, Carl Lentz, this guy Romley Stewart from Justinian Deception. I'm trying to learn from all these people, gather as many of these people together so that we can teach each other the most effective ways for us to assemble, unite, and be able to take the power back, because we, the people, created government and we have the power to keep it in check. And as a matter of fact, we talk about JFK and JFK Jr. JFK in his inaugural speech said that we dare not forget today that we are heirs of that first revolution. And what that means is that we have a responsibility as people in this nation to keep this government in check. It is our responsibility. That's the checks and balance system that was created is no longer effective. So we, the people,
well, I think what happened is we've gotten away from
it. People accountable.
Well, I mean, do they don't even teach civics class anymore?
No, they don't teach none of this stuff. That's why it's important for people like us to connect. I mean, your audience may say, oh, this guy's Rice crypto. He's just crypto. My content, crypto's a part of it. And the word crypto isn't just the word dealing with Bitcoin. It goes back to anything that's secret or hidden.
Yeah, there
cryptic. You go. And I'm trying to bring hidden information, cryptic stuff back to light that's been hidden to keep us dumb, keep us dumbed down so that we can be easily controlled. Because there was
Common Core education. See what I'm saying? You can't say that they're not. It's all tied to this plan. Okay, look. So I'm going to tell you what Trump's plan is. What appears to be happening now in the whole NESARA, GESARA world. Whether it's from QAnon or not, whether you believe in it, somewhere along the line, people said that G is actually working with Trump. So I heard that and I thought, well, it sure the hell don't look like it. So here's how I figured out, in my opinion, the theory for what Trump's really doing. He realizes you can't just end the Fed. You have to tear down the entire system. And where this other part of this came in is when I was reading the news and they were talking about how they were taking US dollars that were being sent to them to help their people and their economies while they're going through the Rona. And then what I noticed the bank, or what whatever the leader was saying, he goes, well, what we're doing right now is we're just buying, our corporate debt and making sure that there's no foreclosures. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. What are they doing? This is the same thing that's happening here. So then when I thought about it, I said, oh my God, this is what they're doing. So they're using the central banks, the money, to buy the debt of the citizens. And the reason why that's important, in order for us to move into this new monetary system that I think we're going into, and Trump's talking about we need to be on a level playing field, in order for that to happen, we have to get rid of the debt, all the debt. You can't just do the government debt. That's not fair. You need, because then the same thing that's enslaved the people is still there. You need to get rid of the debt. So they're buying the debt. They're doing buying all their debt. They're settling debt. I can tell you this.
Bank-related debt, not personal debt.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you got child support, sorry, I mean, you got to pay that crap. You know what I mean? We're talking about.
Or if I borrow money from Pimpy, I got to pay that. So, but anything that's
Yeah.
dealing with a contract with
Well,
bank,
you know, student loans, bank loans, mortgages, credit cards, you know, all those types of things like that. You
right.
have to. And when Trump said we need to get on a level playing field and there's something wrong with the exchange rates and the U.S. dollar is too powerful, what he was really saying is this. Our country, as much as he loves it, he's realized that the Federal Reserve and our U.S. dollar is so powerful that they've been using it for all the wrong things. They're doing these regime change wars to force everybody into the system that they want. And he's like, we got to take away some of that power. We got to reduce the power of the dollar. We got to reduce the power of the government. And he's been doing that. I mean, there's like 500,000. There you go. It's like
People
500.
need to get this book. And they also need to check out my interview with G. Edward Griffin. But this book explains the whole way that the central bankers were able to form what is now the Federal Reserve and how it got to be into power and how manipulating that is. And when people look at this kind of stuff and then they start realizing like some of the things in history that have taken place that they didn't know that were connected.
Why do you think they keep trying to erase our history? Taking down statues, tearing down.
Like the Titanic, like possibly the real reason why the Titanic was taken down was because of certain individuals that opposed the Federal Reserve just happened to be on that boat.
Yeah, so I mean,
he was supposed to be on it too, and he just said last minute, "No, I'm not going."
Well, I mean, you hear all kinds of rumors. Like, well, that was actually the Olympia, wasn't it? Titanic. I mean, they just said it was the Titanic. It was an insurance scam. I mean, there's all kinds of stories.
It's crazy, dude. Yeah, but if people think for themselves and do their own due diligence and start looking into these things that me and you were talking about, they will be blown away. And if anybody has any more information to fill in the gaps, please comment on both of our videos, because obviously this is something that we try to include other people with the research on, because there's only so much that we're able to get. And the reason why we reach out and share this information is because we hope that other people will do the same, because that's the way we're going to make change, is together.
Yeah, so here's another reason why I think this is happening. So ever since Trump's been in office, once a year, our Treasury Department, I had to get permission to share this. Our Treasury Department has been meeting in Malaysia with other countries. There's a delegation of people that go there, and they've been buying and settling old historic debt. So old historic bonds, all that stuff, settling it. You know, China, goes, well, you owe us $1 trillion, and we own all your debt. Well, we go, hey, well, that's okay, because we own 1.7 trillion of your debt. Just because the communist China came in and said, hey, we no longer want to honor that debt, doesn't mean the debt went away. So I'm sure there's a lot of bartering and agreeing going on, but whatever's happening, they have to be on a level playing field.
Yeah, everybody has to forgive and absolve each other.
So if Trump wants to go back to the gold standard, go back to sound money, wants to reduce the power of our government, then all of a sudden, before Trump got in office, you remember you heard China, Russia, Brazil, and all of them were all starting to buy up gold because they were tired of the U.S. using their currency to, basically control what countries do. We talked about it earlier, how they could just turn them off in the SWIFT system. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they wanted to go back to their version of the gold standard, is what it is. And it lines up with what Trump wants to do. So what I think...
real quick. Okay, now, so we are, I don't know the exact amount of days. I think there's 31 days in October. Today's the 23rd. So we're looking at 7 days. So 10 days till the election, November 3rd. Let's say that Joe Biden wins, and so that's obviously just going to completely kill everything that Donald Trump has been working towards, and unless he was able to implement something within the next 9 days, possibly.
Well, he actually has the power to do that.
So
here's what I learned that blew my mind.
What do you think happens if he doesn't get reelected?
Oh,
Great
man.
reset. Great reset.
The Great Reset.
Me and you are going to be put in some internment camp, and maybe
No, you think,
we're going
okay,
to be
so I
considered
remember when people used to,
domestic terrorists, and we're going to be the
no,
bad
look at,
guys.
if you remember that, the FBI put on their list people that they thought would be considered harmful to the nation. So, white nationalists, anybody called a nationalist, anybody called a patriot, calling us right-wing extremists. This is all under,
Sovereign.
anybody. This is all done under the Obama administration. Then all of a sudden people are like, hey, these FEMA camps are open up. And everybody's like, oh, you guys are crazy. But there's videos where these places have been manned.
Not
People are
only
there.
that, dude, not only that, we've seen stuff now happening in the Canadian parliaments that's getting covered on news, like mainstream news, where they're turning
Quarantine places.
where they're like internment camps.
Yeah.
And they're turning off people's microphones while they're asking questions of the people, where they're trying to avoid answering it, and it's all being put on. It's recorded.
This gets me right back,
dude.
Gets me back to what I was talking about, which is there's a race going on.
It should, but it should make sense to what people are talking about with the FEMA thing. Now, something you may not have put in,
or Jade Helm.
Some of these executive orders, Donald Trump did something to FEMA. Because with all the stuff that was going on with the pandemic, with all the different protocols, and the fact that there was a national emergency called in every single state, that could have activated FEMA. And when FEMA is activated, it overrides the president. But it never got activated. So something in some of those executive orders, a lot of these executive orders, and I would really
wait. I want to expand on what you just said.
Yeah.
Because remember, what used to be there before Trump made whatever changes, it was whenever you just said the scenario, whenever that scenario happens, now this was created under Obama, whenever that scenario happens, what happens is now FEMA takes control, and FEMA then has the right to reach out to the United Nations
for
help. And remember, then the United Nations has a
obligation
gun treaty, remember? So Obama gave them the right to confiscate the weapons from them. So you can see this agenda was well planned, and they were already on the way. So whether or not you believe in New World Order, one world government, one world currency, one world economy, it doesn't make a difference. It's coming for you.
It believes in you.
So I think what's happening is they're starting to realize
is real.
Yeah. Well, I think what happens is they kind of figured out what Trump is doing, and now we're seeing a race. To whoever could put out whatever thing they want to do the most. Look, they have no problems with killing people, none whatsoever. Killing people. I mean, look at the 5 Democratic governors that put sick coronavirus people in with healthy elderly people and murdered them. They murdered these people to jack up the numbers.
I'm putting strong possibility in what you're saying as being a very good possibility. And with that being said, I've said in the past, I'm not pro or anti Donald Trump. But now I do want to see the president do good things for this nation and help to restore the republic and get things back to an even playing field. So ultimately, if Donald Trump is trying to do this and he is trying to work with other world leaders and to try to do a global currency reset and get everything back to that even playing field, he's got my full support, 100%. But it's just, I really would, it's hard not knowing. It's that little bit of doubt, because like I'll go back to the beginning of the video. There is still that scenario that he isn't exactly playing on the right team either, because
I showed that to people, but if you tell them, they lose their effing mind.
I just want people to think logically. I'm not trying to say this to hate on Donald Trump. I just want people to be aware of everything. My personal philosophy.
That's what I said, and you can't do that, man. They hate you for it. But here's what I tell them.
That's why you got 60,000 subscribers and I got 10. So it's crazy.
No, here's what I tell them.
I told you I'm sandpaper, brother.
No, look at here's the thing. Oh no, I'm not peaches and cream. I say shit that people don't like. But so here's what I said. I says, look, if you think about what Trump did by buying all the corporate debt, buying all this into the stock, doing all these things that basically what he did is he's bought ownership. The government has right now, Blackstone owns the most assets in our country. I said, so you better hope that Trump isn't really the boogeyman, because if so, he just literally put everything on a silver platter for them, which is state-owned companies. That's fascism. which goes into your socialism, which goes into your communism. But, you know, so when I saw that, I was like, oh, man, I don't want to think negative about Trump. But I want people to at least be aware. They don't, you know, it's like.
If you're aware of all different possibilities, it helps you to make better preparations.
Yes.
And for if things happen, it gives you a way to already know a game plan or a strategy. Because it goes back to my thing is being prepared for disappointment is my key to serenity. So if I know all the different scenarios of how something, this is one of my mental quirks. I try to figure out all the different things that could play out. And I already figure out in my head how to react to all these different things. I'm sure not everybody is the same way. But with that being said, it's like, I bring on people on my show that I don't necessarily agree with on purpose, because that's how we challenge ourselves to grow and to learn. Otherwise, we're just stuck, stagnant, bullheaded, smart ass motherfuckers, and that's it.
Yep. No, you got to listen to both sides of this war.
All sides, not just both.
Yeah, you go, all sides. If you don't, then you're not going to see the bigger picture. So because I do pay attention to all sides, I was able to put this theory together. And you can obviously see it playing out now. And I think what Trump's goal is to create a new currency basket in which these countries all have agreed to peg their dollars to. We're on a level playing field. All exchange rates are even. That's why all the trades have been free trade agreements. All the debt is being squashed. You're going to see a debt jubilee. And that will, and then plus all the debt has now been sacked on the central banks. So if that happens, you've now technically cracked.
You just push the one domino, and what happens to the rest?
Yep, and they hold all the debt, and that's on them.
Deutsche Bank, I thought was going to be that first domino, but they've done everything because Deutsche Bank is the largest derivatives holder, and I think is one of the biggest problems that we have.
Yeah.
And with that being said, I'm pretty sure that Deutsche is like pretty insolvent, but they're doing everything they can to prop it up, because if they don't prop it up, it will really be that first domino piece, I think, to take the whole system down.
Well, and when we were talking about a possible planned economic crash before the end of this year, this guy in an article, or I should say is a lady, sorry, she made this point, and that is, until you can really grasp who we're fighting against, then you won't be able to appreciate the levels that they'll go to bring their agenda around. And he said, or she said, that even includes, if they have to, destroying the Federal Reserve to force everybody into this new world agenda. And she says that when she means like not destroy it, but she's talking about crash the economy. You know what I mean? Like crash it to no end, and just
you create a problem and you offer a solution.
Oh God, that drives me insane that they do that.
I mean, that's how it is, dude. I mean, it's, you know, people just need to wake up and like just pay attention to what's going on.
You know what that reminds me of? It's like somebody, you know, when you were little and you're growing up and you had siblings or friends or whatever.
You had friends.
Some.
I don't know why that happened. You're for some reason your camera just went out, but I was going to tell you. Okay.
When they started calling me.
I was going to tell you that whatever this time period, and I've taken note of it, this is the best I've ever had your internet. I can see you clear. You're moving 100%. Just like this is like a good time for your internet or whatever. Because sometimes you're in areas where it's like there's certain times that are better than others.
Yeah.
This is good. I can see this is probably the clearest I've seen you on video and heard you without any issue. I wanted you to notate that. So this is somewhere around like 1:30 your time to now and beyond.
That's him still trying to come through. He's obviously got some news he wants to share and he's excited. Well, so let me just say this. Here's what it is.
Too much longer. We've done 2 videos.
We're going to, you know, sack them with all the debt. These are the same people who's been robbing us blind. I think what Trump did is he's encouraged these other people around other nations to go ahead and take the U.S. dollar, use it, buy up all your debt. Start buying up the corporate debt, buy up the debt that other countries own, settle our debts between each other. Okay, store upon gold. You know what I mean? I agree with you guys. We should go back to sound money, because when you do that, it restricts the power of the government and the size of the government and their bad spending habits. So that's what we want to do, reduce the powers of the government. And by doing that, what they're going to do is create, in my opinion, their own currency basket that they all peg to. It's all even Steven, one for one exchange is what I'm thinking is going to happen. The Iraqi dinar is going to play a huge role in this. It has to.
So do you think that there will be a revaluation that will end up making people who bought lots of dinar cheap wealthy in some fashion? Do you think that's going to take place?
So if
as a speculative thing, not as financial as advice, just speculate.
Yeah. So look let's just say for whatever reason, Trump's losing this election. They say he loses it.
Well, technically they're saying he is, but we know that that's probably not true, but they're saying he is.
No, not going to happen. So here's my thing. Let's just say, hypothetically, Trump loses. I have to believe that Trump has already thought this through one way or another, that he has a plan. Keep in mind, just once the election's done, he's still in power for about 2 more months. So you can do all kinds of crap. Look what Obama did. You know what I mean?
I agree. It depends on how the process goes, I think, because
I think this is why you're seeing these peace in the Middle East. I think what he's also approaching them about is, look, the United States does have too much power, and that's the biggest reason for wanting to go to the gold standard. That's the biggest reason for so much instability in the Middle East. He's saying to them, look, just trust me. If we crash the dollar and we go to an even playing field, let's get rid of the debts. Let's just reduce the powers of the United States government, because they're being used by this whole New World agenda to push this agenda. So if you reduce the power that the U.S. government has, in the government that is, and the power of the central bank, you reduce those two things, I think we'll be just fine.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the people in the Middle East are starting to see that as well. And yes. I mean, we're seeing what happened with the United Arab Nations and what's going on right now. It's incredible. I mean, it in yes. one way, it could be completely prophetic in a biblical way. In another way, it's one of the most awesome advancements that we can do as human beings, to let that anger and all of that war that has been going on for so much time, to end it and let everybody try to have a more peaceful life. Yeah. And I even heard something today with Donald Trump.
Wait, I want to go back super quick. Because you're asking about this wealth transfer into these currency investments.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Here's what I was going to say. So even if Trump doesn't win, he still has the ability to flip the trigger on this revaluation. So basically what they're doing is this whole World Economic Forum agenda is to say, hey, we've crippled your economies. You have no money. There's no way to stimulate the economies. There's no way to lift back up as the phoenix, and, without our help. But if Trump goes bullshit and he revalues the currency, you create a lot of new millionaires. And what will they do? They'll go out and start creating new businesses. They'll start helping people out locally in their communities. So again, it just really destroys not only the central banks, this plan, but it also totally destroys this agenda that the World Economic Forum has, whether or not he is reelected.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I really like that take.
So revalue gold, silver, revalue the exchange rates. That covers a lot of people.
Well, that's another reason why too. I throw in the cryptocurrency thing. Do your own research, and I think cryptocurrency is a good thing to put a portion of your portfolio in, so that you can diversify. But silver and gold, silver it's huge to me, and I showed this a minute ago, but I wanted to put some emphasis on this, and I want you to check this out at some point. But this is the American Citizens Manual of Reference. And it came out in, see here, because this is originally from a gentleman named William Hobart Hadley. And it was put out in, it was like 1760s, I believe, or 18. Hold on here. I don't know what, 1840 Is that right?
What's it about?
Well, the thing about it is, it has your Declaration of Independence, your Constitution, your amendments of the. It also has inaugural speeches from Washington and Jefferson and some other information. But the important thing is, it's prior to the Act of 1871. The Act of 1871 is what made Washington, D.C. a corporation. It's kind of where the idea of the United States Incorporated
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
into play. And there was a 13th Amendment that apparently was lost, missing, that people weren't aware of because it was erased from history. And the 13th Amendment was called the Titles and Nobility Act, the TONA Act. And it had to do with people having allegiance to the crown, not being able to be presidents, and that would include members of the Bar Association. So anybody who was an attorney under the Bar Association wasn't allowed to be a U.S. president. But
Yeah, no lawyers.
This was but now you have lots of presidents who have
No. They're slick. You know what they do? They stop practicing.
But they still are part of the Bar Association. If you've ever held that, you can't. It's a done deal. You just can't ever be a part of the Bar Association.
Oh, okay. I see
You
what
can't
you're
just
saying.
get away from it, because are you really going to get away from it? Because how many double agents do we have back then? Even if looking at the history of someone like Benjamin Franklin, we're not really exactly sure whose side he was on. So I just encourage people to educate themselves about early American history. Go to libraries, go to bookstores, look for old books.
Before they burn them.
Oh yeah, the new thing I've been hearing is called bit burning, where they're like digitally burning books, where they're basically like they did that to
it's hate speech. You're hurting my feelings.
All the YouTube channels that got deleted. That would be considered a modern book burning. So that would be like a bit burning. It's more censorship. It's crazy, dude. Well, dude, man, I really enjoyed this, and I'm gonna pay a lot of attention to everything that we've been talking about, and I'd like to revisit this conversation.
If I can encourage people, if you could, put the link to the plan to edit all, because in there's a lot more detail that I go over. We weren't able to do because there's so much of it. But if you could, if people want to just check it out, it's a theory that I have.
I'll have links for part 1 and 2.
There you go.
And you have a Q&A for part 1 and 2 where you go through some of the comments that people did on your video. So I'll have links for all 4 of those. So you got part 1 and the part 1 Q&A, part 2 and part 2 Q&A.
Yes.
And it definitely fills in more of the gap, and then we'll revisit some of these things, because I'd like to get into it with you about how cryptocurrencies come into play, blockchain, central bank digital currencies, digital dollar, a global digital currency, because we haven't touched on that. I know there's a lot more that we need to do.
Oh, yeah.
But we've been at it for a couple hours between both videos, and
yes, sir.
I think this gives, between both of these conversations, the one that we did with Stephen Gleason from Money Metals Exchange, that had some pretty deep moments in there. We also talked about how people can transfer their IRAs and their 401ks partially or fully into precious metals like gold and silver. And then we went over talking about the IMF and what they've done recently with their Bretton Woods moment and how that might affect the US dollar.
Spray perfume on a turd.
Yeah. What that Outcast song? Remember Roses? Your roses really smell like poo poo.
They smell like poo poo poo.
Yeah. All shit stinks, unfortunately. If you think your shit smells like flowers, or something wrong with you. You need to go get some mental help. All right, dude. Well, you got any final thoughts?
Oh, man.
Aside from making sure they watch those videos and...
Yeah, that's kind of important, because, there are some people out there that have real information, especially a lot of people you talk to. Hopefully, if they see these videos, they might be able to plug in other pieces. You know what I mean? That'd be nice.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of, when I do videos with Stan from Buddy Sop of Love and with you, the whole point of this, like I said, we want people to comment so that they can help fill this in, because this is a team effort. That's the way that we move forward, is together. There's no I in team unless you misspell it.
No, I did that. I was at boot camp and I was getting yelled at. Like, CC's like, there's no I in team. I said, no, sir, but there's a me.
Oh, someone said there's an asshole in there too. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, look at the A hole. You see the A hole?
I had to do like 700 push-ups for that shit.
Oh my god, that a-hole thing really kind of got me though. I was like, really? Oh god, you blew my mind. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. Make sure you're checking out the videos I mentioned that Pimpy put out. If you're watching this on my channel, check out Pimpy's channel, Pimpy's Investment Chat. Make sure you subscribe. If you're watching this on Pimpy's channel, check out my channel.
Make sure you support us and hit the subscription button. I
was gonna say that sounded like some East LA stuff. That's
where I'm from.
You're from California. East LA?
No, Southern California.
That whole
oh yeah, well, I got family members in LA. That's a whole other story.
Cheech Marin. Oh no, was it? Yeah, Cheech Marin did Born in East LA. That movie.
Yeah, remember that? Excuse me while I work these lights. Remember that? He's doing that.
Excuse me while I work these lights.
Yeah, he's trying to do the light show. He was this one-man band show, so it's pretty funny. Oh, what's happening?
I love it. Yeah, I had to ask you because I know you're Hispanic. I used to collect some toys, man. I don't know if you remember these little Hispanic toys.
Low riders, that's what they're called. Homies. Yep.
I have
I got all kinds of them.
I have a whole bunch of little homies, dude. I probably got over 100 of them.
Dude, we used to sit around all day drinking before and be like, yo, check this out. They say it looks just like you, Vato. Hey.
I want to find a homie. You muted. I'm not sure what happened. Someone tried to run into you?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to, maybe you could do like a little homie video or something, but.
No, I did. I tried to get my friend to do it. We're going to do a video together. It's called Ask the Homies. Well, we respond in funny ways, you know what I mean?
Sweet.
The way that, yeah, we have a whole headband and everything like that, but it's really funny. So, yeah, it's, we talk like, I don't know if you've seen Mad TV, you know, Little Joker. The lady is like, we go to interview him, she go, they'll say,
oh yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
Oh, hey, orderly, make sure you get my good side. They say, oh, check this out. All around is my good side.
It was almost like the character from the second Friday movie, the neighbor, the Hispanic guy with the dog.
Yeah. No, he's talking about the guys that gave him the angel dust in there and he made him take off his clothes. He was so skirting his ass across the ground. Yeah, like that.
Oh, hiding. Are you talking about Chris
Tucker.
Yeah, Chris Tucker's character when he was hiding in the chicken coop after smoking him some rocks. Life is so fun. Well, dude, I look forward to our next conversation. I do encourage everybody to make sure they smash that like button, comment, share, because it helps other people to be able to see this information. And I'd like to think this information is fairly important and other people should hear it. So please share the video. And as always, this conversation will be continued.
Have a good one.